This is Tzu-Lin Huang from Live Goka. Welcome to UIT Insight. UIT Insight is a podcast for developers who love user interface technologies. Usually we do this weekly podcast in Japanese to cover all sorts of information related to front-end development. This time we are doing a special episode in English to talk about the article titled Baseline for Web Development in 2022. This article was recently published on the Line Engineering blog and went viral around the front-end community worldwide. Here we have the author, Alan. How are you doing, Alan?
Hey there. I'm doing pretty fine, thank you.
Good. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So, I'm Alan Davalos. I'm a front-end developer in Line's Tokyo office, and I mainly, on my day-to-day job, I mainly work on the Line design system, but I also have some side projects in the company related to this kind of data analysis, which is what kind of drove me to write this kind of article in the first place.
I see. This article, the baseline for web development in 2022, I think many of our audience have read it already, but for those who haven't, could you give us a brief summary?
Yeah, sure. So, well, the TLDR of sorts would be basically that I did this analysis that now that with IE ending the support and everything, and most big applications dropping supports from IE, so it's well, what should we use as our baseline now? So I did this analysis, and the conclusion was basically that in terms of web standards, Safari from 2 years ago should be our baseline. In terms of networks, the baseline should be 4G networks, and in terms of performance, we should treat the cheaper Android phones as our baseline. And I then did an analysis about, how we as the front-end community are actually responding to this kind of baseline. And the result was mostly that in terms of performance and accessibility especially, we're not doing really well. We're overusing JS among other stuffs. And our accessibility, even some of the main points of accessibility, we're not doing it really well. So it's a really, I don't know, it has a lot of data in the article, so hopefully if you haven't read it, this will bring you to read it soon. It's really, I did a really good effort on that.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of information we definitely everybody should have a read. So, the first question is, why did you write this article?
So basically, this is something I think it's a bit of a personal experience I went through when I just joined Line 3 years ago. I came from this background of developing mostly desktop websites in a small company, and then coming to a almost mobile-only developer. It was a really huge change for me, and basically all the things that I put in the baseline are the kind of stuff I had to learn through these years. It's basically, I mean, the article itself, I think it took me about 2 months to prepare, but I guess it's actually the last 3 years of my own experience, just summarized in a big article.
Okay, yeah. It seems like you put a lot of effort into it. So apparently this article received a lot of responses and it's being shared widely on the internet. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it went really over my biggest expectations. I mean, I hoped it would be viral and it would have some coverage around at least the English and Japanese communities, which is where we published it. But I'm actually overwhelmed by the positive and the great response it's been having. It's been shared around many communities I don't even participate in. So it was really fun, just learning how many people appreciated this.
Yeah, that must feels really good. And actually, we see a lot of interesting question and response on the internet, and I think we can let's take a look at them. So we can take this chance as a good opportunity to respond to those questions.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, the first one is I think a lot of people care about this is the performance. In the article, you list the performance of several popular framework, and actually at Angular, their numbers are not good. Is that really that bad? I mean, for performance of Angular and React.
Yeah, so like you said, like we saw a couple of people like asking around both for Angular and both for React, and some people were even saying like, well, this might be due to React's popularity or due to the size of the applications you make with this kind of frameworks. And you could arguably say that some of the data might be somewhat biased in that sense, which is why I actually try to include like many data points from different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, I think most of the people who wonder about this saw the graph from the Team Kadelek article that just mentions that the median size for React is like 700 kilobytes,
Yeah.
and like for Angular it's like 1 megabyte or something like that. No, but even when you look at that graph in the 10 percentile, which is basically the top 10% of sites created with each technology, like you see that even then, like the React and Angular sites like barely even meet the performance like baseline metrics, and that if they even meet it. So that's basically saying like, yeah, even this top 10% of sites that like really have the best performance you can have with that kind of frameworks barely even met the metric. And some other, like when you say the Vue one and the jQuery one and the like overall ones, they are a lot smaller. So I think it's one data point that helps in that side. And I think the other one is like the lab metrics. Like there you can see like every framework tested in like the same conditions, and then you can see that in those comparisons, they also like React tends to be the poorest performer together with Angular compared to some of the more modern stuff, which is what I also mentioned in the article. Like most of the things made catering to IE in the beginning still have some like performance problems that more modern stuff don't seem to have.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, but just my personal opinion, I think there's many way to evaluate these things, and I guess a lot of people choose React is probably because that saves a lot of work to create something from scratch. And so I think sometimes kind of like a trade-off. But if you're really looking for performance, maybe I think this data provides a really good guidance, I guess.
Yeah, I think like for example, for people who like the way of doing stuff with React, like you can always use like Preact or Solid.js, which basically have the same basic idea of creating apps, but just way better performance since they were made like with different constraints on mind in the beginning.
Yes, that's true. Okay. Oh, you mentioned about the baseline is 4G networks and the 2 years old iOS device, iPhone. But readers say that they're from a third world country, and many people in their country still use iPhone 5 or 7, which is many years ago, and 4G planes have just started roll out, but not many devices can actually connect to 4G networks, like not iPhone 5 or iPhone 7. So, like, what do you think about this?
So yeah, like myself, like I'm Mexican, so I know what living in a third world country is about, and I can actually relate really deeply with this. And in this time, I wanted to make like an overall one, like a global one. So when you look at global data, like things sometimes tend to be like more centralized to the more like urban areas and stuff like that. So what I would say for people like that, like you can redo the analysis in the same way, like the most of the data points I pointed to like have like the individual countries data, like stat counter that I use for the browser stuff. Like you can look like, for example, in my case, like for Mexico, or like for Line, like for Thailand, or for some other of the other countries we target. And you can see like what the market looks in those kind of places, and that will give you a better idea of how much does this apply as is to your specific case. Like there might be cases like where you might need to make the baseline maybe, I don't know, 3G and like 3 years of iPhone devices. I don't know. It will depend a lot on how each market works, basically.
Yeah, I agree totally. So basically, it depends where your users are.
Exactly.
So maybe so people might want to do their own research on their users, so they can like adjust their baseline, I guess.
Yeah, but if anything, like I think the best part of this stuff is that they can compare it to this global one I made and see like, oh, so we just have to adjust this part or something. Like you can do like more like minimum adjustments instead of doing all this work by yourself.
Yeah, indeed. You do most of heavy lifting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In this article, there's a performance comparison of JavaScript libraries and frameworks, and some people might wonder how about some the performance of some libraries or framework that not listed in this article. For example, like Ember.js or this micro HTML. That's, I think they claim they are really fast.
Yeah. So basically, the answer for this would be like I had to like trim to some of the like the more popular frameworks and some of the frameworks that I've seen like more have more momentum around the internet. But like each of those charts have like a source link where you can actually see that I think one has like 50 something different libraries compared, and the other should have like more than 60. And like, for example, those that you mentioned, like Ember and micro.html, and like it has like a lot of other libraries compared. Some of those even like might perform better than the ones I put. I think most of them are kind of experimental still, but maybe I'm wrong. So, I mean, if you want to like pursue performance even further, you can go to the source there and see what other kind of stuff is there.
I see. Yeah, I think it's just a start that this kind of benchmark will never end. There are always new frameworks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, there's another comparison table that I'm curious about it. Like, why doesn't any framework score 1.0 in the startup column? And I take a look at it. Even Vanilla.js, its startup score is 1.06.
Yeah. So basically, the short answer for that would be like Vanilla.js is not the fastest in every single metric. Like what I did in that table, I basically took what the benchmark calls the geometric mean of each of the subcategories, but each category actually has like several metrics inside. And for the startup one, like when comparing these specific frameworks, I think Vanilla.js actually lost both metrics. I think it lost one to lit and one to svelte. So since not a single framework like won every single metric, so they don't have like the 1.0 average, which is why like every single thing there has like 1.06 or 1.1 or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the reason.
I see. One of the biggest events last year is that a lot of website, a lot of service that drop support of Internet Explorer 11. So that kind of makes you want to write this article. So when should this baseline will be updated again?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question, because like you said, like this time there was this big event that triggered this, and I think like for this baseline to change drastically, something like of an equal like amount of influence has to happen. So basically, I think there's four possible things that could like make us have to change this. One is that either iOS has to like allow different browsers into iOS, like really different browsers, not just WebKit under these guys, or that they have to like allow for Safari to be updated separately from the OS. But I think for those to happen, like either like some Apple inside policy had to change really like a lot, either from internal pressure or maybe from some external pressure. I think that's basically the only reason why they would do that, I guess. And so as long as those don't happen, I think like the baseline for Safari will stay mostly the same. And like for the Android devices, they don't seem really to be pushing that much, like having better CPUs. So I don't think that will change a lot more. And same for 4G, like what that the comment just say, like there's some countries that the 4G penetration just started, so like 5G is like a long way before it comes. So I think for the time being, they should like stay for at least 2-3 years, like basically the same. Or that unless like we have like a new type of device that becomes really popular and can browse the internet, like I don't know, maybe something like VR actually like has a nice resurgence or something like that. But as long as
everybody use metaverse, I guess.
Yeah, like something like that. Like unless the way we browse the internet doesn't change like drastically, I think it's going to pretty much stay the same for at least some years, I think.
That's like a good news, because I mean, as a front developers, we like keep changing baseline, just bring us a lot of unnecessary work sometimes.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Just adapting to this new baseline change is going to probably take a lot of work for many people. So
yeah, we probably
in that sense, yeah,
we have to update a lot of things, update a lot of libraries, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so thanks Alan. Today we talk about the baseline for web development in 2022. As mentioned before, we usually do this weekly podcast in Japanese, but if you like our English version, we might release some new episode in English in the future. As a last note, Line Corporation and Line Fukuoka is currently hiring, and we have office in Tokyo, Kyoto, and Fukuoka. You can find our open position in the links in this episode's show notes. Thanks for listening. We hope to see you again.
See you.